Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the show that we bring a wide range of guests that talk about a lot of diverse topics, that have to do with business situations. And today we have a awesome guest, and not only a timely guest, but Greg Reed. He is a CPA and he is with SmartBooks. They have a very entrepreneurial culture at their company. His roots are working with large and international business, so Greg is no stranger to complex tax laws, which is what led him to work with small businesses because they often don't have access to someone who can help them navigate tax law. So, Greg, thanks so much and welcome to the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so unfortunately, and I'll be the first one to throw myself under the bus and say that, in my personal life and in business, we think about taxes on, April 1st, April 7th or 8th, and rushing around trying to gather everything up and throw it in the shoebox to take it over to the accountant and get everything put in, but really. And that's a little bit comical there. I try to do a little better, but tax prep. There's more to taxes, than just dropping numbers into some boxes. I think it's a year-long process, and we need to really be in contact with our professionals, our CPAs, lawyers, and other professionals that we work with every year because. You can help guide us, know where we're at. But anyway, that's kind of what I would like to talk more about today is, just kind of all the other stuff that you can help small businesses with as well. And even though the other thing I want to make clear too is even though that you're located in Massachusetts, you do work with clients all over the United States as well.
Yes, we do. We're all virtual and now in this COVID era, I guess a lot more people are, but we've been like this for about 10 years. So
okay.
we're pretty accustomed to working like this.
Okay.
But back to your comment about the shoebox, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, right.
There's still a lot of shoeboxes running around there.
Yeah, exactly.
we try to get people away from that.
Yeah, it happens. Sometimes we don't want to know what we don't want to know, but then again, and that's, again, this is kind of the importance of having a professional like yourself. Maybe we don't have you on staff, but I look at you as more of a fractional accountant for the company where that, we can consult during the year to make sure that we're on track and that we're doing things. And you can also provide that guidance and advice as we go through because it is so complex. Even for smaller businesses, it's not that simple anymore.
Yeah, the best way to utilize me and think about me is as more of a advisor role than just the tax guy.
You're right.
That's I offer a lot more value than just the tax guy in April.
Exactly. Yeah, and it just, it depends on the businesses. And of course, COVID, I guess that, it's not only presented challenges for the businesses, but I think there are a lot of these programs and things that have happened throughout the year. That's going to take some preparation and thought and planning to make sure that, we capture what we're supposed to capture, but we also are able to take advantage of the different breaks and areas that have come out in 2020.
Absolutely. Our whole team has actually done a ton of research. We've done a ton of reading. We've worked with, a lot of our clients and helped them through, these PPP loans or EIDL or,
right.
Whatever, all the other incentives that they have out there right now, just to make sure that, we're taking advantage of all that for all of our clients. One thing that we did that, I'm very proud of, it really helped our clients, in my opinion, is when the whole PPP loan came out, we started right from day one. We started tracking, all the expenses, how they were used. We had all the receipts, documented and bookmarked. And then when it came time to forgiveness, it was just like we had the summary, we had all the receipts, all that stuff, and it was nice and neat, and made the whole forgiveness piece really easy for our clients.
Yeah, and I know tax season is right upon us, so what we'll say is, let's get through this tax season and then have a fresh start, with reaching out to professionals like yourself, because we need to build that good foundation. I think that, and I'll let you speak more to this, but it's also talking a lot of things through, so you understand me, my business, my needs. It helps you more the more knowledge you have about my operations.
Yeah. So, high level, I really think about working with my clients like building a house. And, we can kind of get into some more of the details of what that means. But, high level, it starts with, building a nice foundation. So, are your books and records in good order? Can we take that shoebox and put it into, QuickBooks Online and make sure that we're capturing all the expenses the right way? And then, are we structured the right way? You might be an LLC, but how are you taxed? And that's a key piece. You can save a lot of money making sure that you're structured the right way. Yeah. And then you kind of get into the high level stuff, right? Like electrical and plumbing, right? Like the essential stuff.
Yeah.
And we get into I think of these as kind of the essential deductions, I guess. Making sure that you're taking the meals and entertainment, home office, you're taking the what we call accelerated depreciation in the tax world, which is either what we call bonus or Section 179 depreciation, and basically allows you to write off assets faster for tax purposes than for book purposes.
Yeah, I was just going to stop you for
things in there.
Just stop you a minute, because talking about the structure, that's an important piece that a lot of times we don't think about. Sometimes we fall into businesses and we operate under, kind of that sole proprietor doing business as, that's how we can do it here in Texas. You go down and get a certificate, and for $7 or something like that, you get your assumed name. But so it makes a difference, in our tax planning. But there's also the liability protection is, once you grow and start having assets, the being able to segregate and protect is very important. But then the more that you do that, then you have to start keeping up with expenses, and you have to start worrying, paying more attention to what you can classify as a business expense. So I'll let you, I know enough about that to be dangerous, but I do know that it's an important factor.
Yeah, the entity structure is key. And I tell my clients all the time, if they're just starting out, maybe the sole proprietorship is the best structure, right? It's the cheapest structure. You can start it up, close it down really easily. But as they continue to grow, it does usually make sense to, convert over to an LLC. It's relatively cheap money. And then, how you get taxed as an LLC, like that's kind of like the next step in that. Right. And a lot of it also depends on your goals, right? Do you want to bring on investors? Do you want to keep it closely held? Do you want to have a little bit more flexibility? Stuff like that. So these are all conversations that I have with my clients, so that we can set them up. And, I have a phrase, it's called, never let the tax tail wag the dog. Right. And what that means is that you can't base everything on paying the least amount of tax. You gotta set stuff up so it makes, economical sense for you.
Right. Yeah. And I think the further we go down the road, the more complex it becomes. So that's, again, that's why we need to reach out to professionals in the beginning, even though maybe we don't change our designation. Maybe we do, work under the assumed name for a period of time. But then we have triggers of when we know when it's time to take that next step. And I think the other part of this, and I think that's just where you were going, is, with our retirement planning, but also succession planning. We have to think about, as a sole business person, even if you have 4 or 5 employees, you typically have all the knowledge of everything in your head. So we have to plan for, unfortunately, what if we, were to pass suddenly, because we need to think about our families as well, but about that succession planning. We need, maybe at some point we're going to want to sell, or we might get made an offer. And if we don't have things, cleaned up, if we don't have the back of our house cleaned up, that makes it much more difficult as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, setting all this stuff up so that, like you said, succession planning, do you want to pass the business on? Who do you want to pass the business on to? Right. Making sure that, if you have a partner that, you have a nice buy-sell agreement in there. This is where I'm a big believer in building a team around you. Right. So as you continue to grow, you build that team. You have me, you have an attorney. Maybe you have, an estate attorney to, help with the succession of wealth. And my plan is that we all work together to come up with the best plan for you. Right. I'm a big believer that I don't know it all. I have no problem saying that. And I believe in utilizing experts.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it, it's complex and there's a lot of moving parts, but it's also, that succession plan. And it's also that, it's some people, the business is their retirement plan. And so, we need to think about how does that work? We don't want to get to the end of the line. And I've seen this with small businesses. They get to the end of the line and there's really no business there to sell. It's all the information is.
They are the asset.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. They, the person is the asset. So when they step away, there's really nothing for anybody to sell. So that's something to think about. But then also there are a lot of retirement vehicles that are available to business owners, small business owners, that are really good vehicles in order to set some money aside just as a, kind of a backup plan too.
Oh, absolutely. And not only, from obviously it makes good financial sense to save for retirement, but also from a tax planning perspective. If you are generating a lot of income, there are ways that we can minimize or reduce that tax liability by effectively, doing some retirement planning, right. Whether it's a SEP plan or a 401k or, and again, that all comes down to structure, size, goals, stuff like that.
Right.
So there's really is no like one size fits all plan. Yeah. And that's why, again, getting back to looking at me as more of an advisor role than a just the tax guy is in my opinion very crucial.
Yeah, and we need to think about this as a year-long process because if I hire a new guy in June, because when we're talking about retirement plans, there are a lot of rules and regulations, and we don't want to get that minute into all of them, but some have to do with, used to anyway, contributions that I can make to myself as a business owner. Some plans you have to make the same contribution to employees, some you don't, but these are all great things to talk about with you in June when I add my employee, not April 7th. Like, oh yeah, by the way, I added some guy, this last time, and then, kind of get jammed up at the last minute. So again, this is
January to April, I'm just a historian. January to April, I'm a historian.
Exactly.
Yep. I can't do much, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I kind of like that because, we need that. You need to be an active participant. So in June or July, when I've hired this person, we can make adjustments and things that we're doing at that specific point in time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I do a lot of tax planning with my clients, especially at year end, just to at least, at the very least, figure out, what do your liabilities look like, make sure that you have enough cash available to pay the taxes,
right.
Plan accordingly for that. Right. But, some even going back to the retirement, right? So some plans you have to fund before year end, and some you can fund up until, you have up until you submit your tax returns. So, depending on what you're in, then, that has a huge implication.
Yeah. Which kind of leads us into, Well, a couple things you had on our talking points that we probably want to talk about too is the you're working out of your home for your business is a big one, and from things I've read in the past, that's probably the number one flag for audits with smaller businesses too, when they show some god awful amount of I don't used to we take the square footage and wrap, you could wrap some other cost into that, but when you start overdoing it, because there's percentages that you work off of. But anyway, again, I'll let you talk about that. But those are things that, while they're legal, you just have to be careful at how they're presented.
It's all about documentation.
Yeah.
And making sure that you are able to build a strong case in the event that you do get audited.
Yeah.
And, as far as the home office goes, your kitchen table, that's not going to qualify.
Yeah.
But if you have a place that's used exclusively for business, then, there's a few other, this is very high level, but, if you have a place that's used exclusively for business, then, the home office is a great deduction.
Right.
And people are often surprised at what you can take.
Right.
And again, as long as you're not being aggressive, if you're within the rules that the IRS have laid out for you.
Exactly. So, what about adding children to the payroll? There's a lot of advantages to that, and of course, again, we could probably do a whole entire episode, but if we could kind of go over the high level detail of that.
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah.
I did this with a couple clients this year. You have kids, maybe you have like a 13, 14-year-old that, you can pay to stuff envelopes, sweep the floors, just stuff around the business to help out. You can pay them up to $12,000, and they don't have to they don't have to pick up the income on their tax return.
Yeah.
That's earned income to them. You send that to a joint bank account, and that way you're pulling money out of the business. The business gets the deduction. It's and they're not paying the tax on it. So
right.
it's a great incentive. Now, some states, again, you have to be careful about child labor laws. But typically, if it's your child, they kind of let you do whatever you want.
What's the statute of limitations on that one? I may have to go. I may go back and see about my parents violated that whole child labor laws there.
Yeah, I know, right? But that's a fun one. I love presenting that one to people. They love that.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. But the other thing is, once they get into college, there's still some advantages to if they can perform the work. They have to actually do the work, so we have to be able to prove that they're doing something. But at one point there was also some really good advantages if you had children in college, if you could work this out for them in order to make sure that they had some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can put them on payroll in college, and the rules do start changing a little bit once they hit 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
But you can certainly believe it or not, there are tax planning ways that we can save for college, and depending on the size of the business, the type of business, and stuff like that, there's opportunities there as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those situations where it's very specific to the business, but if you qualify for it, then we can save up to about $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's amazing. And that, again, I hate to belabor the point about getting with professionals to talk about this, because there's so many things out there that people just don't think about. And then how many tax bulletins do you estimate that you get per year? Because that's another reason why I was like, I have my degree's in finance, and I'm pretty decent with numbers, but I still use a CPA because she is up on everything, all the latest information, and changes through the year that I don't get all the tax bulletins. And, they may not be as much as they were, but, when I was coming through school, they used to, sometimes there may be 2 or 3 a month that would come out. So again, it's staying up on the latest of like this, payroll for your kids and things like that.
I'll be honest with you. I subscribe to a daily bulletin. I get daily updates on things that change. It's not just the federal level. You got to think about state level, and then you have the various taxes, right? You have income tax, sales tax, franchise tax, you name it. And there's always something happening in some area there. So yeah, I have a daily update that I read.
Okay, that's even more than I thought. Yeah, another thing we had kind of on our list to talk about is this would be more, I think, geared to people that are thinking about starting a business or people that may be very new in the business, is the estimated taxes, because I will tell you that I've known some people that has really come back to haunt them, even though they had some success in a business. They just got so far behind that it killed them. So we may touch on that for just a minute.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Estimated taxes are key, and you definitely want to avoid any underpayment penalties, and you also want to be able to make sure that it's a great way to budget for the taxes due at the end of the year, right? I think that some people, especially new business owners, maybe they're really successful, and then they sit down with me in April, and all of a sudden, we have this $20,000 tax bill due, and they don't have any money set aside to pay it. And that's where the estimated taxes really come into play. And again, there's planning opportunities around that.
Right.
So
yeah, one thing I got into a habit, luckily, I got some very good advice at a very early age on this, but, whenever I collect money from a client, I just have a separate bank account for my tax, and then for also my, my SEP contribution. So I can, again, talking to my professional, I know about what those percentages are every year. So what I can do is immediately pull that out and segregate it. It doesn't get commingled and accidentally get spent or reinvested. And believe me, it sure helps me sleep better at night. Number one, knowing when I have to make my estimated tax payments, I have something in there to actually send. But then at the end of the year, we may be off by $400 or $500, but we're not off by tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's definitely a smart idea to kind of pull the taxes out as we go, and that's why we kind of quarterly estimated tax payments do the same thing. But if you can kind of hold on to that money and it makes sense, and you can limit the underpayment penalty, then keeping in maybe a savings account where it's working for you is definitely a good option.
Yeah, no, I went ahead and I just had the money there where I could make those estimated payments, because it's not that I don't trust the system. I didn't trust myself. If that money was already gone, then I knew it would be there. So,
yep, you're going to use it for something else.
Exactly. So, again, these are all strategies that, we seek out from our professionals, because they can give, especially just starting out, we can have a laundry list of things that we need to do and things that we need to watch as we go through the year to save us from, just having a big wreck here at April 15th and then trying to figure all this stuff out. At least as we work through this through the year, we can handle, the smaller situations and not lead up to a big one. So kind of along those lines is our payroll, because if you are a business that employs people, you hold out withholding and FICA and all that, you have to send that money in at designated times. I guess I'm not sure if it's the end of the month, end of the payroll, but back in the old days, what we had to do was you actually had to call them and key it in through a system. It was very difficult. And the other thing is, I don't know, I know some people that used to have a whole bunch of trouble with that, estimating it, and there are a lot of good services out there now that I mean, you can be down to the penny with your withholding and things, what you are sending in.
Oh yeah. I'm a big believer in outsourcing payroll.
Yeah.
Let a company that focuses on payroll do the payroll.
Yeah.
We utilize vendors like ADP, Gusto, and a few others. And depending on which one's a really good fit for our client, is the one that we'll go with. But the fact that a lot of these payroll providers will file the returns for you, they'll do the W-2s, that they'll kind of take care of all the stuff that can often be forgotten.
Right, exactly.
And payroll is one of those things that you don't want to get behind on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because I know there's been, and this is prior to COVID, but there was a really successful restaurant here in town where I live that, they ended up getting in a lot of hot water over their payroll taxes, and it eventually put them out of business. So, again, everything in business is serious, but when you're dealing with the government, federal or state, they take this very serious. So we need to make sure that we've got all our ducks in a row, when we start talking about that.
Absolutely.
And the different rules, I guess there's different rules for states with payroll as well.
Yeah, it's states all have have their own rules. It's like 50 different countries.
Yeah.
And so you got to be up on that. And again, going back to my point of utilizing people who are well versed in this stuff and kind of like live it. Right. Payroll is definitely part of that.
Yeah, and then which kind of also leads to 1099 employees, and I know they've made some changes in 1099s this year, but I think the other distinction where you can provide some guidance on is there a lot of times people think that they can avoid the whole withholding nightmare if we just 1099 people. But there are very specific rules around who is eligible for 1099. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can get yourself in some trouble by doing that if things come back on you as well. So,
yeah, and I think it was California that just recently passed a rule that it makes it pretty hard to be a 1099 contractor, at the individual level at least. You really got to be careful with the 1099 and crossing that line into employee because, they'll hit you pretty hard for that.
Yeah, and there's specific rules. I know that, and again, I don't want to get off into that, but this is why, you need to seek out professional help because there are like 4 or 5 key things that you have to meet in order to be considered 1099, and I think that they've gotten more and more difficult as we've gone through time. And so, but let's just say for a minute that, we have domestic help, somebody that helps with children or cleaning the house, maybe the yard guy. So what are the rules on that? Is it still like $500 or $600 if you pay somebody more than that?
Yeah, it's $600 per, if you pay someone more. And then, the child care is a little bit different. Okay. You actually have to put, if you pay over, I think the amount's $2,000. Don't quote me on that.
Okay. Yeah.
But you gotta you actually put them on payroll. So it's I believe it's Schedule H, and so you have to set them up on payroll and withhold taxes, and that's like a whole. It's called the nanny payroll there.
Okay.
And a lot of I think like care.com and they'll the bigger websites, like they'll kind of administer that for you.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't either do that or know that.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that you could get dinged on.
Yeah. Okay. Always good to reach out on that. So let's talk about Let's talk about KPIs for a minute. What are some things that I guess we can be looking at as far as our key performance indexes, either jointly or what I need to be watching throughout the year?
So this comes down to, and this gets back into really understanding your client, understanding their goals, and helping them identify the key performance indicators, the KPIs that are going to be meaningful to them. And also it gets back to record keeping. If you're running, several different business lines through one account, we want to make sure that we're separating those out so that, we know, okay, this side of the business is maybe doing really well, but this side of the business, not so much. Right. And really setting the key performance indicators that are, going to be beneficial to you, and then tracking them over time so that we can utilize that data to continue to get better in the future.
Okay.
These are all things that, like when I meet with my clients on, say, like a quarterly basis, we'll sit down and, go through, what the numbers look like, figure out what, how we're doing compared to, budget to actual, figure out, how we're doing with the KPIs, and then what do we need to do to maybe get to, back on track, or, maybe we need to adjust our goals a little bit. And at this point, we're not even in like the tax world anymore. We're more in like that advisor role. But, right. My benefit or my advantage is that, I understand financial statements. And not to say that our clients don't, but right. I think I look at things a little bit differently than maybe say like a typical business owner.
Yeah. Well, and I think we fall into a trap of we're so busy running our business that it's not that we don't pay attention. It's just we don't really know what that is telling us, because unfortunately, I've dealt with some clients in the past that get down, they get well through a year to find out that maybe they are taking a loss on some different segments, products or services that they have, the business overall. But like you said, this is a good reason to, try to segment as much as we can, because they had, one particular service that was dragging down the whole operation. But instead of waiting, till the end of the year or going 3 or 4 years, by tracking that, we were able to catch it, make some changes, and put them back in profitability. So again, that's important, that we just don't let this stuff go longer than it actually needs to go before we realize it.
Yeah. And, it's all about, building that healthy business that, like when COVID hit, a lot of businesses were doing okay, but then they realized, well, maybe we weren't doing as good as we thought we were.
Right.
And, having in tracking those KPIs and the budget to actual and all that, planning is helpful in that. I've had clients who come to me and say that they've had a great year, and then we start looking into the books and diving into it, and it turns out to be not such a great year.
Right.
So the customers might be there, but maybe the pricing isn't, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
definitely. And, again, don't want to get too far off track, but this is another area where, I've seen with clients in the past is that it was pricing. And when you really start breaking down this pricing, they didn't understand the components of what made that. There's an arbitrary, we're charging this much for this service. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough to cover the expenses for them actually providing that service. So, those are things that, professionals can help you with, to look at your, think about looking at the market, the competition, a whole lot of things that you need to look at.
And it goes the other way too, right? So maybe you're thinking that maybe we didn't have that great of a year.
Yeah.
But then once you look at the numbers and you figure out what's deductible and what's not deductible, and kind of get into that, you figure out, wow, I might have this big tax bill.
Yeah, right.
So it's good to keep those that tracking on track.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and we mentioned you mentioned this a little earlier, but the CPA financial advice is part of a greater team that we need to look at building. And you talk a little bit about talk about the team that we need to try to put together to help us reach these new goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say that you got to start with a good CPA, and they're gonna be the if you want to say a sports analogy, I'm kind of like the quarterback of the whole process, right? Okay. So even from day one, right, you say I want to start a business, and now you reach out to a CPA. Okay, let's talk. What does this mean? What do you have to do? Do you have to register with the state? Do you need any specific licenses? And then let me introduce you to this attorney, and they can help you set up the business from a legal standpoint. Yeah. Great. Now, let me set you up with a bookkeeper, and now you can get set up with a bookkeeper. And, let me get you on a payroll platform that works for you if you need payroll. Yeah. I view my role as more of like a quarterback type role where I can kind of oversee the whole operation from the finance side.
Yeah. And the other, I think, key for that is that communication between all of those people. There needs to be good because it can kind of derail the whole process if all of these professionals operate in their own silo where they don't really talk to each other. So there needs to be a good team with good communication and get that set up from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. The communication factor is key, and making those introductions to, if you already have an attorney in place, just making sure that we're all on the same page. Right. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the factors that causes the whole house to come crashing down. Right. Is communication.
Exactly. Yeah, in most things in life, that's for sure. All right. Yes. Well, Greg, thanks so much. I know it's a busy time of year for you, so I just want to again say thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us and talk this through. Because, like I said, we view sometimes people view their CPA as just the guy they see in April and just go take that beating. But I think the bigger message is that we need to look at our CPA as part of our team, and we need to have contact throughout the year so we can get that advice, and it will definitely help us when the end of the year rolls around. We will be in a much better position in order to, get everything taken care of, as well as be more profitable. Absolutely. Yeah. So what is a tool that you use either in your professional life or your personal life? It could be a tool, an app, some kind of a habit or ritual, something that you do every day that adds value to your operation.
Honestly, from a more of a personal level, it's just making sure that I'm taking care of myself, yeah. And then that just makes me a better person, a better CPA, and a much clearer mind. You can't work 100 hours a week, right. Especially doing what we're doing. I always make a joke that you probably don't want me doing your taxes on April 14th. Right. At that point, I've looked at so many tax returns that it's all starting to blur together. Yeah. But
all right, yeah, and
I would say self-care.
We've got to take care of ourselves. That's for sure. The other thing I might advise people is just call Greg, get him to lend you a hand, but don't take your first meeting on a golf course with him. As you can see in the background, he's got his golf clubs there, and if I'm not wrong, you're about a 2.5 handicap.
Yeah, maybe 2.5, 3.
Okay,
4,
okay,
maybe.
Yeah. So,
but we do all right.
Yeah. If you do go to the golf course with him, leave your wallet at home. All right. Well,
No, it's a lot of fun.
Greg, tell everybody how they can, tell them like who your client is, what you can do for them, and then of course how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with small businesses ranging from, pre-revenue startup to anywhere, 5 to 10 million in revenue. And we're just looking to, like I said, be that kind of advisor role that they might be missing. Okay. Again, we focus more on the tax planning. For me, the tax return, which obviously we do, is kind of the end result, right?
Right.
It's like the presentation of the business plan. Right. And working with me throughout the year, that's where, for me, that's where I'm going to provide you value. So yeah, small business owners, I'm a big proponent of keeping the businesses and the individual returns together. So I often do the individual tax returns for the businesses as well, all the owners. And then we do individual returns as well. So okay. If you just need to get something filed, we handle that too.
Okay, awesome.
Best way to reach me, you can check us out at smartbooks.com. We have a whole team, and you can always email me. This is my claim to fame. My email address, greed, GREED. It spells greed. It's a good one for an accountant. So greed@smartbooks.com. All our marketing clients, they hate that. They tell me I got to change that, but I feel like it's easy to remember, right?
Right. I must say I did get a snicker out of that when we first started emailing back and forth. I told my girlfriend, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's ever really looked at that and see what that says.
yeah, don't worry. All our marketing clients, they tell me, Greg, you got to change that. Nah, it's a good conversation starter.
Exactly.
But yeah, just definitely shoot me an email, and then we can put in the show notes too. We can put the links. Okay. And yeah, would love to talk to anyone. I don't. I'm not a salesman. I actually have a Calendly link, and we can add that to the show notes too, if you don't mind. Yeah. It's a virtual coffee. You make 20 minutes, sit down, we can chat. Ask a couple of questions. If it makes sense that we work together, we can talk about that. If nothing else, it's 20 minutes of free advice, and get to hang out with me. Maybe I'll throw in a tip or two about the golf.
Okay, great. I may set an appointment just for that. I'm having a little trouble coming out of the sand trap there. All right,
good deal.
Yeah, all right, Greg. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Y'all reach out to Greg, see what he can do to be a critical advisor for your business, and just help you to be more successful and be more prepared. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Business of Business podcast. We do appreciate your listenership, and appreciate our guests like Greg. We always have awesome guests that I can never thank enough. So again, just kudos to all of them for taking time out of their day to help the audience out a little bit. You can find us, of course.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, yeah. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course a video of the, once this episode is released, the video will go up on YouTube. So until next time, y'all take care of yourself and take care of your business.